Have you ever had a moment at work when something clicked? When you suddenly understood a process, a skill, or a piece of feedback that changed how you work from then on? That's learning in action. And it's happening around us every single day. Hi, I'm Julius, and as someone working in learning and development while pursuing masters, I get to explore this intersection where psychology meets growth. Today, I'd like to take you on a journey, not just through training programs or skill building workshops, but through the science of how people actually learn, grow, and change at work. Because learning and development isn't about teaching people what to do, it's about understanding how people think, feel, and behave, and using that understanding to help them reach their potential. So get comfortable. This isn't your typical lecture. This is a journey into how psychology shapes the way we learn at work and beyond.
Let's start with a quick time travel. Picture a corporate training session in the 1960s. A trainer at the front, employees in rows, notebooks open, all absorbing information passively. The idea was simple. If we tell people what to do, they'll learn how to do it. But as psychology tells us, that's not how real learning works. Over the decades, we began to realize that learning isn't about information. It's about transformation. By the 1980s, learning shifted towards skill building and competency frameworks. And then came e learning, which promised flexibility and reach. But even that had limits. Sitting through 40-minute online modules, not always engaging. So now, learning and development has evolved again into something living and human centered. It's about continuous, personalized, and social learning.
Instead of creating training sessions or events, we are now creating learning ecosystems, experiences that empower people to learn anytime, anywhere.
Take onboarding, for example. In some companies, new employees used to spend their first week reading manuals. Now, they join an interactive onboarding journey, short digital lessons, a buddy mentor, and reflection prompts. This model is rooted in Bandura's social learning theory. People learn best by observing others by seeing behaviors modeled in context. Onboarding isn't just about introducing a company, it's about building belonging, confidence, and connection. Now that we have seen how learning and development evolve, let's go a bit deeper into the psychology that makes learning stick. Why do some lessons fade away while others change how we work forever? There are five things that may answer this. First one is behaviorism. Think of B.F. Skinner's behaviorism like a reward system. We repeat what gets rewarded and avoid what doesn't. In the workplace, this translates to feedback and recognition. When a manager says, "Great job handling that client," it's not just encouragement, it's reinforcement. That simple phrase shapes future behavior.
That's why gamified learning with points, badges, and leaderboards works so well. It taps into our basic psychological need for feedback and achievement.
Now, shift gears to cognitivism, the theory that says learning is about how our brains process and organize information. We're not just recording facts, we're building mental frameworks. That's why well designed learning programs chunk information, use visuals, and apply storytelling. They align with how our brain encodes memory.
When information connects to something we already know, it sticks.
Now let's talk about someone who is very familiar to many of us. Bandura taught us that we learn through observation and imitation. Ever had a coworker who inspired you to communicate better, stay calm under pressure, or lead with empathy? That's social learning in action, and it's everywhere.
Companies that create spaces for employees to observe and share like peer coaching or lunch and learn sessions, are building environments where learning is constant.
Making it relevant. That is what adult learning theory is all about. Malcolm Knowles, who developed the theory of andragogy, reminded us adults learn differently. We know why we're learning something and how it applies to our real world challenges. That's why modern learning and development focuses on self directed learning, letting employees choose topics, set goals, and apply them immediately to their work. Finally, David Kolb's experiential learning theory ties it all together. We learn best through experience, by doing, reflecting, and applying.
Imagine a leadership simulation where a manager handles a virtual conflict scenario, then reflects on what worked and what didn't. That's learning through experience, not memorization.
A great real world application of these theories is micro learning. Instead of hour long sessions, employees take short 3 to 5 minute lessons, immediate feedback, instant wins. It's simple, effective, and built entirely on how our brain and motivation systems operate. So, how do all these psychological principles translate into the real workplace? Let's take leadership programs. Instead of lectures on how to lead, managers go through workshops with simulations, handling feedback conversations, or crisis scenarios. They learn by doing and then reflect in real time. That's Kolb's experiential model at work: concrete experience, reflection, conceptual understanding, testing it again. Next one is coaching and mentoring. Coaching programs bring psychology even closer to the individual. When a coach helps an employee set goals or reflect on setbacks, they are using concepts like self efficacy, by Bandura again, helping other people believe in their own ability to succeed. Because when people believe that they can change, they can actually do. Then there's peer learning. In the company that I work with, we launched a Learning Fridays program where employees volunteered to teach something new every week. Sometimes it was technical skills, sometimes it was communication. The result: engagement skyrocketed. People felt ownership over their growth. Learning became social, collaborative, and fun. Another innovation in modern workplaces is real time learning tools: quick guides, checklists, or chatbots that help employees in the moment they need it. This kind of learning in the flow of work is built on behaviorist principles, reinforcing the right behavior instantly. But, to tell you the truth that anyone in learning and development knows, people don't always apply what they have learned. That's the challenge of learning transfer, turning new knowledge into lasting behavior. Research shows three things influence it most. First, motivation. Learning must feel personally meaningful. Second, self efficacy. People need confidence to try. Third, the environment. The workplace must support learning, not punish mistakes. That's why the best learning and development programs build a culture of learning, where one feedback is welcomed and mistakes are treated as opportunities.
Think of a team that reflects after a project. What went well? What can we improve? No blame, no judgment, just learning. That's psychological safety. It's not just a buzzword, it's the foundation for continuous learning.
The next chapter of learning and development is already here, and it's exciting. Artificial intelligence is personalizing learning paths for each employee. Virtual reality is letting people practice surgeries, customer conversations, or leadership moments in realistic simulations. Learning analytics are tracking not just completion, but confidence and behavioral change.
But even with all this technology, the core remains the same: understanding people. Learning will always be human at its heart. So, As we close our journey, I want to leave you with this thought. Learning and development isn't about courses or compliance. It's about unlocking potential. It's about seeing people not as resources, but as learners, explorers, and innovators. When we understand how people truly learn, when we apply psychology to nurture that growth, we don't just make employees better, we make our organization stronger and people happier. I'm Julius, and this is why I love working in learning and development. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember, keep learning, keep growing, keep becoming.